Let's start at ground level, literally. Picture your party on the edge of a worn cobblestone road. The air is crisp, your packs are heavy, and the next city is 3 days away. Assuming nothing goes wrong. The sky could turn, the road could vanish into mud, you could follow the wrong trail without even realizing it. Here's how the system works. Most travel rules in tabletop RPGs are just boring math. But in Shadowdark, every step, every turn, and every road can change the story. Welcome to where we make the shit-covered, sun-baked dirt road as exciting as a dragon's dungeon. Whether you've been running Shadowdark for a while or this is your first time hearing about it, this will give you the groundwork for everything you need to make travel in your game feel alive. I'm pulling from Shadowdark's core rules, mixing treasures that I found in Cursed Scroll zines and stitching it together with my own Aida homebrew. So stick around, subscribe, and let's set out on an adventure. Each day, your party can travel up to 8 hours without penalty. That's the baseline. If you want to push past that, maybe you're racing the weather, maybe you're trying to beat another group to a location, you can, but you have to make a con check every time you push beyond your limit. Very similar to 5e for those who are more familiar with that system. Problem is, the DC gets harder every time you push it, and if you fail, you gain disadvantage on all rolls until you take a rest, or a full rest for my 5e players. Distance is measured in territories, or hexes, each about 6 miles across. On foot, crossing one territory takes 4 hours. That's half your day right there. If you're mounted, it could do 2 hours. If you travel stealthily, it takes 8 hours per territory. Difficult terrain doubles your time no matter how you're moving through it. That means that a single stealthy crossing through a difficult swamp could take 16 hours of just travel time. 2 full days of travel, basically. When your party enters a new territory, the player that's designated as the Navigator has to roll an intelligence check. On a success, the party gets to move in the direction that they want. On a failure, either the GM has them roll for a random direction, the GM chooses a new direction, and maybe even a new destination, like, well, rather than going to that city, you guys are going to get lost and you're going to go into this cave. Or the GM might double the distance. When traveling, I recommend tracking things in initiative, just like you would do in combat or crawling, especially if somebody has a spell that has a duration that is a certain number of rounds. Every round is equal to the speed at which they move. What I mean by that is every round should be a single hex. So if you can only travel for 8 hours at a time, if you're sailing, every hour is a round. You're going to get through 8 rounds if you're going to be traveling for that full 8 hours. If you're stealthily moving, you only get 1 round for that full 8 hours of travel for that day. And that's very easily trackable with the fact that the Navigator has to roll intelligence check every time they enter a new hex or territory. So if you're captaining a ship, every hour in game, you're rolling navigation to sail the boat or the ship. Every territory has a danger level: safe, unsafe, risky, and deadly. The danger level tells you how often you roll on my umbral clock. That is my system for random encounters. Rather than being random completely by rolling, it is a countdown system. You can check out the video for that, link down below. And at the end of this video, when you start your adventure, it's important to roll a 1d6 for the danger level of the first territory, the first hex. Each new territory, you're going to roll on a new hex. For each new territory, roll another danger level. When you roll for a new hex when entering a new territory, you're not necessarily rolling on the same danger level table. It's slightly adjusted to be more user-friendly and mid-journey. Your hex terrain can jump between desert, swamp, grassland, forest, river, ocean, mountain, and it can rotate between those things, making it not just be grassland the whole way through. Again, a lot of this stuff is mostly Shadowdark core rules with me tweaking it just the way I like it. But if you want to get more detailed into that, I recommend checking out the book. Or if you want to just read my doc, head over to my Patreon where you can download that. In safe territories, it calls for 1 roll on the umbral clock per territory, per hex. Maybe a friendly traveler or a passing caravan can be the result of that roll. An unsafe calls for rolls every 4 hours in-game. Risky means a roll every 2 hours. Deadly means you're rolling every single hour you travel in-game. So if you were in a deadly situation on a boat, every time you had to roll navigation as the captain of the ship, you would also have to roll on the umbral clock or a random encounter. Why choose moving stealthily if it's going to be slower? That's an important conversation to have. If you were to travel stealthily, which means you're traveling slower. It'll take you longer. You can only do 1 hex per day. The number of times that you have to roll on the Umbral clock has nothing to do with how fast you're moving. It is entirely based on the safety or the deadliness of the terrain that you're moving through. Now, if you were to roll on the Umbral clock or a random encounter and a monster happens to show up while you're moving stealthily, I would say you get to roll advantage on avoiding the monster or encounter or hiding from them. You want to know what you avoided moving stealthily. It's exciting. It makes you feel like your choice was validated. It's nice to know that, okay, the system of danger is independent to me, but my choices help me either avoid it or get stuck in it. And that's a really good feedback loop for a player, in my opinion. And no matter where you are, traveling at night always makes the danger one step worse. An unsafe at day becomes a risky at night. A risky at day becomes a deadly after sunset. So imagine this. If your party starts the day on a safe farm road during the Eastern Arc, it's a single roll on the clock to see if anything happens. By West Reach, you've entered a risky marsh with fog rolling in. That's now 3 rolls on the clock for the rest of the day. The sun dips behind the clouds early, and suddenly that marsh isn't just risky, it's deadly. You can press on knowing you'll have to make 3 or 4 more rolls before camp, or you can stop early and lose precious daylight. That's the heart of overland travel in my home setting, using Shadowdark rules as my foundation. You always know the cost of pushing forward. That's the basics of overland structure, which everything is built on for Shadowdark. But you notice I'm saying territories and hexes. What if you don't have a perfect hex map? I personally don't really run in hexes. That's where my territory guide comes in. Not every game master likes using maps with perfect honeycomb of hexes. In fact, I prefer node-based maps. Sometimes you've got a sketch of a coastline, a dotted line between cities, or just knowledge that the river runs north to the mountains. You still need to know how far things are, and more importantly, how long it takes to get there. That way you can run an interesting travel, encounter, or narration through the land. Instead of counting hexes, you use broad distance categories, and each one converts directly into the number of territories or hexes, and therefore travel time you'll need to get to a place. So this is where we enter a little bit more of Homebrew, using Shadowdark as its inspiration for organization and categorization. Hopefully this is helpful to you, as it's helpful to me when I want to think of something on the spot or come up with distances for travel situations when I don't have hexes around to help. Here's how it works. Very close means the next destination is right on your doorstep. Maybe a nearby farm or hamlet. That's 1 territory, so about 4 hours on foot or 2 hours mounted. If you leave at dawn, you'll be there before Eastern Arc is done. Close is the next village over, or a short trip to a neighboring town. That's going to be about 2 to 3 territories, 2 to 3 hexes worth of math, meaning 8 to 12 hours on foot. That's a solid day's travel, maybe spilling into nightfall if you get slowed down for whatever reason. Near is a small overland journey. A town to a city to a town, or a farm to the edge of the wild. That's 4 to 6 territories, anywhere between 2 to 3 days of walking. While far covers city to city trips, or moving halfway across an entire region or country. That's 7 to 12 territories, translating to 4 to 7 days of travel on foot. Very far is an overland trek across an entire province. That's 13 to 20 territories, 13 to 20 hexes worth of rolls, which means 1 to 2 weeks of travel. An epic, yes, I keep going. An epic means you're crossing multiple provinces or entire regions. That's 20 or more territories, at least 2 weeks on the road, maybe a month. The beauty of this is that it's built for theater of the mind, while guiding you. So that way, if you want to use the mechanics of the overland travel system from Shadowdark and its hexes, you can draw from that, instantly have a understanding how that applies to your theater of the mind travel, and how many times there should be a roll, how many times your players will interact with kind of the system or the land. And the same modifiers still apply, whether you're using mounts, stealth, difficult terrain, weather. So if you call a trip far, but it's across mountains in the winter. That 7-day estimate could easily double. So this is how it could run and play. The party is told that the city of Port Deep is about 2 weeks away to the east on the Golden Road. You check your notes, it's called Very Far Trip. Okay, that's about 15 territories on foot. In good weather, they'll reach in about 10 to 11 days. But if the road cuts through unsafe forests and they travel cautiously, that makes the time doubled. Suddenly, the 2 weeks the NPCs promised makes sense, and then the players feel that the distance in the game is not just on a map, it's actually alive. 10 to 11 days. Why is that important to understand, or 14 to 16 territories worth? Well, in this example, you've now communicated to your players for them to understand for their characters how much time has passed. Oh, it's been 11 to 10 days. Okay. What happens on that? Well, you can sum things up narratively. You can have maybe like a camp trip, or you can follow the system that I'm explaining here, and that helps you guide how many rolls on like the umbral clock, or how many random encounter rolls that you can have on the way there to see if it gets longer. Maybe the territory changes, hazards change, maybe monsters occur. Thankfully, what I've done is put all my travel system and travel information into one doc, from the Shadowdark core book, from the zines, mixed with my own little homebrews to match my setting. I put it all into one doc for me to have when I play games. So if my players choose to travel long distances, we can take a bathroom break while I look over my docs super quick and make a decision on how far it is, what's needed, stuff like that. It's been extremely helpful for me. It might be helpful for you. Thus, the video. But that's the backbone of Overland travel in my setting and in Shadowdark. The rules that keep the road and trails alive under your players' feet. Now we need to layer the world itself on top. The seasons, the weather, the creatures that carry you across it, extreme terrain, because the landscape is never just scenery. It's an active encounter waiting to be played in the game. Go ahead and check out the next video where we will dive into seasons and weathers based off of the curse scrolls that accompany Shadowdark RPG.